All right, let's jump right in. Today, we're exploring a fascinating explainer of an ancient text that takes spiritual rituals, what's known as sadhana, and literally strips away all the mysticism. It turns them into a highly logical, step-by-step science of psychology. If you've ever wondered why some people just seem to possess this almost superhuman drive and an unshakable presence, well, this source offers a concrete breakdown of how that power is actually cultivated from the ground up.
It poses a pretty massive question right out of the gate. What is the exact mechanism that elevates a completely average, everyday person into a veritable superhuman? Is it just blind luck, massive wealth? The text argues unequivocally that it is neither. The real catalyst for this kind of transformation lies entirely within the human mind and its hidden capacities.
Section 1. The Power of Will, or Sankalp Shakti.
The crucial point the author makes right away here is that massive historical shifts and human achievements aren't just the result of having abundant physical tools or resources. No, they're driven by fierce determination. The text uses this really powerful term, Sankalp Shakti, which basically translates to the immense power of willpower. Think about it. When we look back at the grand sweep of history, it wasn't just huge armies or limitless funds that dictated the outcome of great events. It was the unyielding willpower of the individuals driving them. It's the exact same for your own goals, right? It's not about having an expensive planner or endless resources. It's this absolute bedrock of mental strength. The author even notes that things like mesmerism and hypnotism, they're really just minor offshoots of this exact same highly focused mental energy.
Moving on to Section 2. Faith, the Vital Life Force.
Now this is where it gets really interesting. The text bluntly states that going through the motions, doing mechanical rituals without genuine inner belief, is completely useless. It's actually deeply frustrating. It introduces this concept of Shraddha, meaning deep, unwavering faith. But it's not just some nice, fuzzy feeling. It defines Shraddha as prana, the vital life force itself. Without it, your willpower is just erratic, scattered energy. And the source uses this unforgettable, kind of jarring analogy. It says performing strict spiritual practices without genuine faith is literally like decorating a lifeless body. No matter how beautifully you dress up a corpse, it's still dead. In the exact same way, any action devoid of true internal conviction is fundamentally lifeless from the very start.
To put this into perspective, think of your psychological state like soil that has to be prepared before you can plant any seeds. If you approach your goals with a mind full of doubt, suspicion, or apathy, you're essentially shallow, barren land. That kind of soil just can't hold on to profound successes or divine boons. But if you prepare that emotional landscape with faith, boom, you've got a lush, fertile green field. It's only in this carefully cultivated mental environment that you can even dream of reaping a massive harvest of success. Basically, your psychological foundation ultimately dictates your tangible reality.
Section 3. Chasing Shadows versus the Sun, the ultimate choice.
So the text draws this massive night-and-day distinction about what we actually choose to chase in our lives. It categorizes material wealth as jad, which means inanimate, unconscious, or dead matter. Spiritual wealth, on the other hand, is called chaitan, meaning conscious and incredibly alive. And the difference in value between the two? It's staggering. True dignity and ultimate power belong entirely to the conscious realm, not the inanimate one. It really forces a profound shift in perspective about where true value actually resides.
Which leads us to this incredible quote. Think about this. If you turn your back on the sun to chase your own shadow, no matter how fast you run, that shadow is always going to stay exactly one step ahead of you, right? But if you turn around and walk directly toward the sun, which represents your inner spiritual growth and willpower, the shadow of material wealth has literally no choice but to follow right behind you effortlessly. It's a complete trap to directly chase material gains. The author warns that obsessively chasing only the material shadow leads to a painful double loss. First, you get battered by the turbulence of the material world, and second, you end up with this deep, gnawing spiritual dissatisfaction. Build the sun and the shadow follows.
All right, Section 4. The 75-25 Rule, a formula for success. Here is the core, myth-busting assertion of the entire text. It explains exactly why people fail. We often look around and wonder why intense hard work or crazy routines aren't giving us results. Well, the source diagnoses this perfectly. It argues that a whopping 75% of your success depends entirely on your character, your mindset, and your everyday behavior. The actual rituals, the Vidhi-Vidhan, they only account for 25% of the equation. People constantly fail because they treat that 25% as if it were the whole 100%, completely neglecting the massive psychological groundwork required to actually sustain success.
So how do you actually cultivate that massive 75%? You have to actively build your character on a daily basis. The text lays out some very specific prerequisites. First is Indriya Nigra, which means controlling your senses and impulses instead of letting them control you in your modern life. Then there's Sanyam, or strict restraint, when you're faced with endless distractions, all while maintaining unshakable good conduct. Plus, your internal world needs to be filled with genuine compassion and goodwill toward others. If you can correct this internal balance and prepare your life correctly, the text boldly asserts that the results of this spiritual science are as absolutely certain and predictable as the results of any physical material science.
And that brings us to Section 5, the science of mantras, or Shabda Vignan.
Now, the text frames mantras not as some kind of blind magic, but as Shabda Vigyan, a literal science of sound. When that beautifully prepared 75%, your refined character and fierce willpower, combines with the acoustic energy of specific chants, like the prominently mentioned Gayatri mantra, an incredibly powerful reaction happens. It's not a mystical accident. It's a precise science where specific acoustic frequencies merge perfectly with concentrated mental energy to awaken dormant, latent forces within you, ultimately giving you immense inner strength.
So, as we wrap up this explainer, I want to leave you with a question to really think about. Where are you currently directing your willpower? Are you exhausting your energy running after the inanimate shadows of material wealth, only to find yourself constantly frustrated and always one step behind? Or are you doing the hard foundational work, that crucial 75%, to build your character, refine your mind, and cultivate your inner sun? The science of sadhana promises that if you can just manage to build that inner light, absolutely everything else will naturally fall into place right behind you. Focus on the light and let the shadows follow.